rinsing rice can wash away the magic. And right here, Bobby Flay, I love the confidence. I really do. But oh no, you better don't. Not rinsing rice can be a goopy, burnt cuddle puddle. But I made you a cheat sheet and a hack that uses 8 times less water when you're rinsing your rice. How cool is that? Plus, what is rice, right? And I'm going to give you the real truth, the weird truth behind long, medium, and short grain rice, if you've ever wondered what that's all about, and more. But first, let's get to that cheat sheet right after this. I really like doing that. To rinse or not to rinse? Pay attention, Bobby. Okay, so this is the rice that you want to rinse. Here's the cheat sheet. You want to rinse your white rice. You want to rinse long grain rice like jasmine or basmati. Medium grain rice, such as calrose, you definitely want to rinse that. Rinse your short grain rice, that's like sushi rice and sticky rice. And you want to rinse brown rice, black rice, red rice, and no surprise here, and wild rice, which if you saw my whole thing on wild rice, that whole series, you know exactly why, right? And be sure to grab this cheat sheet. I put this in a linked blog, but I also posted this info in a pinned comment for this video. So easily accessible anytime you need this information. Okay, the rice that you do not want to rinse. That's risotto rice like arborio or instant rice. Then there's the rice that swings both ways. Rinsing this rice is optional. That's enriched rice, like rinsing it washes off the added nutrients. Paella rice, like bamba, or parboiled rice. The why of rinsing rice isn't always clear. And to quote George Michael, who I love, there's things that you guess, and there's things that you know. And rinsing rice seems to be like one of those guesswork things for most people. Honestly, me too. Me too. That's why I made this video, so I have a reference. So here is the why of rinsing rice. Rinsing rice is all about variety, grain type, processing, more on that in a bit, starch, and the dish that you're cooking. The dish part of that equation is probably why Bobby Flay does what he does, or doesn't what he doesn't. I don't know. Anyway, point being, not rinsing rice that you should rinse can mean sticking, more burning, even more foaming, and boilovers. Plus, you're cooking bits of like milling and like other bonus content into your food. Ew, David. So you should rinse the rice that you're supposed to rinse. But rinsing rice that you shouldn't, like say risotto, arborio, that rice, well, that's going to summon the wrath of 1,000 nanas, and I'm just going to leave you to that. You do you. By the way, rinsing rice does not sanitize it. I just want to put that out there because I saw some of that on blogs and comments. Cooking does the food safety part, not the rinsing part. So here is my method for rinsing rice that uses 8 times less water, because water's important. We need it to grow food. See, running rice under the faucet sends 1 to 2 gallons of water straight down the drain. That's just how taps are. That's how much they output. Here is how to wash your rice using way less water. First, measure your rice out, of course. Put it in a bowl with a little bit of headroom. And you want to add enough cold water to cover it. Swish it around for 15 seconds. That part is really important. And then let it soak for a minute. Drain it, rinse and repeat. So basically, agitate, soak, drain. Important note, this is not a soak for cooking rice faster situation. This is strictly for washing your rice. And by the way, the water doesn't have to be clear. It just has to be a lot less cloudy than that first soak. Knowledge. But let's talk about why we're in this mess in the first place. So remember I said that rinsing is all about variety, processing, that hot dish Bobby Flay, yada yada. Anyway, processing. That's the reason that we're in this mess. So let me just break that down for you a little bit. It's the reason that there's stuff to rinse off, how that rice is processed. That comes down to milling, polishing, handling, and they all create surface starch and dust and other broken bits, stuff that you don't necessarily want in your food. They also change the cook time and the texture. Coming back to Bobby Flay, sometimes you want separate grains, like a peel-off, so you rinse off that surface starch. And sometimes you want your grains to be a little bit more codependent, like a paella. so you don't rinse off that surface starch. So processing is the reason that there's stuff to rinse off. But the recipe is the reason you choose to or not. Now let's talk about rice's main character energy, okay? So more than half the world eats rice as a staple. That's how popular this stuff is. When we eat rice, we're eating the plant's seed. That's the part of the plant that we're eating when we eat rice. Now, most commercial rice comes from a grass that's grown in flooded fields. Yes, there are other ways that it is grown, but most commercial rice, say it one more time, comes from a grass that's grown in flooded fields. That's what makes it a cereal grain. It's an edible seed from the grass family. That's basically what makes a cereal grain. When I say true rice, I mean the real deal. That's rice from the Oryza genus. There's basically two domesticated species. Oryza sativa, not that sativa, called Asian rice, is what you find in the grocery store. Oryza, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing this, glaberrima, known as African rice, is way less common unless you happen to be watching this from West Africa or listening to Toto. I use the term true rice because wild rice is botanically distinct from this rice. Totally different. Of course, cauliflower rice, also not a true rice. But let's get practical, like what you see in the store. And that's typically long, medium, and short grain rice, or, some version of that. For example, basmati is long grain rice. So size does matter. Sorry, people. These categories are based on the kernel's length to width ratio. Long grain rice, those kernels, for example, are about 5 times longer than they are wide. Medium grain rice, those kernels are about 3 times longer than they are wide. And, well, now we're talking about the actual chode of rice, the short grain rice, which is less than 2 times longer than it is wide. Sorry, short grain. But each size yields completely different results when cooked. Now, long grain rice is light, fluffy, and separate when cooked. Perfect for pilafs and salads. Medium grain rice, the Jan Brady of the cereal grain, is tender and chewy. It gets sticky as it cools, but it's perfect for risotto and, say, rice pudding. Short grain rice is very, very sticky, moist. Perfect for sushi and weird molded rice things. The size itself is not what magically makes rice sticky, it's the starch. But there is a correlation between size and stickiness, and everything that I'm saying just sounds dirty. Sorry. Varieties were bred and selected for their starch profile and their texture. Domestication and cultivation helped lock in these traits, along with modern breeding. There are 2 main categories of rice starch. There is amylose and amylopectin. The former cooks up fluffy and separate, and the latter, it sticks. Long grain has a lot of the first one, and that's why it's not a sticky rice. Short grain has a lot of, probably guessing, the second one, which is what makes it a stage 5 clinger. And medium grain rice is all marsha, with a little bit of both. Basmati and jasmine are examples of long grain rice. The rice used in risotto, arborio, is a medium grain rice. And as I mentioned, short grain rice is perfect for sushi. Congrats, you are officially the rice whisperer. You made it this far. So just to summarize, rinse for fluff, skip when starch is the main character, okay? Also, soak to save water. Don't let that water just go down the drain. And reminds me, one last pro tip because you stuck around this far. So that soak water from when you're soaking your rice to clean it, it's liquid gold for your plants. They love it. Now, grab the cheat sheet in the pinned comment and don't fight me. And Bobby, I'm watching you.